It's PBA bowling from Imperial Lanes in Toledo, Ohio. Pete Weber is attempting to secure bowling's Triple Crown as he competes in the $280,000 TrustCorp PBA National Championship. We start with the first match between Mark Baker and newcomer Jim Johnson Jr. here on ESPN Classic.
And you're looking at 28-year-old Jim Johnson Jr. from Wilmington, Delaware. Get this. He is tied for the record in 300s with a total of 31. With strikes like that. He had a 299 here during the week. Now Mark Baker, that three-time champion and a likable guy, very intense competitor from Garden Grove, California. 3 titles, 9 years, and it's his first appearance this year. To be greeted by what we always call a Mark Roth.
You're right, Chris, and that's the 710 type of leave that he left when he converted in Alameda, California a few years back. And what Baker has to do has to just simply throw the ball as hard as he can at the 10 pin, hopefully bounce it out. He's going for the 7 and ricochet the pin over.
So it's a tough break for Mark Baker, which he finds difficult to do, like many of us, is control our temper. He held it there.
Well, a very competitive guy. Mark Baker, an instinct player, and has been an excellent athlete in a lot of sports. He was nominated McDonald's High School All-American basketball player, averaged almost 30 points a game this senior year. So he knows the thrill of competition. He's a tough competitor.
That's very professional like. An open frame left with a 7-10 split. Comes back with a par strike. Now here is Jim Johnson. This is only his 5th PBA Tour event. Strike up, second frame. Leaving a 6-pin on the right lane.
Jimmy Johnson a little nervous coming into the last 2 or 3 games last night, and he just settled down the last game as you see that 5-step profile of the 6 feet 2 inch tall Johnson, 200 pounds, nice and smooth, kind of the old style of bowling.
Worked as a surveyor in the Wilmington, Delaware area, but now, and rightfully so, he's full-time bowler.
Chris, he's made an adjustment in his game that I haven't seen many pros make, and what he has done is put a sock over his sliding foot. Watch his left foot. You see that sock covering the sliding area, and he has done that to adjust to all the approaches around the country. He said he had a lot of trouble with sticking on approaches.
And as we have a 4-7 on the left lane for Jim Johnson Jr., I can see a lot of amateur bowlers going out this afternoon following the telecast and buying a sock. All right. Strike and 2 spares for Jim Johnson. Mark Baker, who had 47 games out of the 56 over 200 this week. Gets them all. Trailing by 9, he leads by 1.
Man, did he saw those pins up on that shot. Watch the ball come in light. The head pin will do the work. The head pin goes to sideboard, drives out the 4. The 4 comes all the way across the 10. 3-pound, 7 and 8 ounce pins here. Mark Baker uses that tremendous power. Just absolutely blasts the rack apart and cuts and takes a 1-pin lead.
Trying for a 3 in a row, leaving the 10-pin on the left lane.
Mark Baker, if there's any 2 little criticisms you have of his game, number 1 is his spare making ability sometimes is questionable. Number 2, something he's doing very well today, keeping his form under the pressure. He's keeping solid at the line.
See that lone 10 pin? Mark Baker in the 8th frame had left the 3-6-10. Comes up with his 3rd open frame, which in professional bowling on the caliber of this disaster. He had a strike in the 7th frame. We bowled while we were away because we're running behind our time schedule early. That one sliding by, leaving the 2 sleeper 8.
See the angle that Jim Johnson's playing as he comes to the foul line. Overhead shot, slides almost perpendicular to the foul line. Good follow through. Ball finishes light, leaving the 2-8 double wood, another tough spare. To set up this championship here and what has happened so far in this match, historically the left-hand lane, lane 25 here, has always hooked about 4 boards more than 26. And the reason being is that it's just the grain of the wood. There's a lot of soft pine between the 20-foot mark and the 60-foot pocket, and that causes that left lane to hook more. The player who's been able to conquer it has always been tough in this center.
Hoping for a foundation frame strength, leaving the 7 pin. Still a tight, close match. The Johnson family, Mom is wringing her hands early.
Right now with a spare, Johnson would have a 11-pin lead. He'd be going at a 185 pace. Baker 174. The match is far from over.
And of course, should we have a tie any game, any time, the 2-frame roll-off as Terry Johnson looks up at the overhead score sheet. Mark Baker knows the situation now after an open, his 3rd. 9th frame. Robbed. Looked like a pin was going to carry the 10, but didn't.
The shot that Baker carried in the 3rd frame was a slasher just like that, except the head pin hit the 4 pin and drove it over into the 10. That time the 4 pin went straight back, the head pin missing the 10. Baker will be trailing by 11 pins going into the final frame.
And the winner of our first game will meet Amleto Monicelli, followed by Dave Ferraro, and then our tournament leader, Pete Weber.
So far in the match, as we can see, there's been 7 strikes between the 2 players, yet only 1 strike on the left-hand lane. And as Baker checks the scoreboard, he needs 3 strikes to finish with 184. Right now, Johnson going at a 185 pace. The match is up for grabs.
Really sending that shot wide on that left lane.
A fine attempt by Baker. He really trusts the ball in the clutch here. Instead of pulling it up, he sends it very wide in a pressure situation, starts the ball with the first arrow, sends it out almost the last board. The sharp break, but no carry of the 10 pin. Tough break.
Baker 6'4", 220.
He has to concentrate on his final ball. The most he can get is 173. But if Johnson would happen to open, Baker could still either tie or win the match. It's far from over unless Baker gets a horrible count.
And wide, and again. Tough way to end, shooting a 171.
The big test for the rookie right now. He needs 8 on the first ball to put himself in the driver's seat. Any type of spare will win a strike. Absolute lock. Not over yet.
Because 3 of the 10 are still standing. Part of the bucket for this right-hander.
This sets up the possibility of a tie match. If he would happen to chop the 2-4 off the 5, and any bowler who bowls knows that's very much a possibility, we would have a 171 tie. It's either going to be a tie or a win for Johnson. Power player Monicelli against the stroker, nice, smooth, almost a league-type player, Jim Johnson, who's won 1 match so far.
Crossing over, leaving the 3, and Leto checking out his slide before the line.
Well, there's two things to think about when you either stick or slide. He has a couple of pairs of shoes that he can adjust the approaches to, but maybe the approaches are a little bit smoother or slipperier with bowling against a player like Johnson, who has a tendency to smooth them out with that sock. That's nothing against that. It just changes them a little bit.
Monticelli marking with a spare in our second match. Now, the winner of this game will meet Dave Ferraro, and then in the PBA National Championship one-game final, Pete Weber. All right. Settled down after only 4 strikes in his victory over Mark Baker, shooting a 182. Look at that, 31, ABC sanctioned, perfect 300 game. There is Terry Johnson. And the folks in Wilmington, Delaware will be up and cheering, especially at Brookside Bowling Lanes in Newark.
Johnson has the style that can conquer this championship pair. The left-hand lane has historically and today proving out to give the cranker, the power player, a lot of trouble. Johnson, a simple down and in player, seemed to have made the right adjustment there in the second frame, can give Monticelli tremendous, tremendous match.
Follow through, a long look, and what Leto saw didn't please him. The 2, 4, 10.
A split that a power player like Monticelli leads quite often, and he knows how to convert it. Simply this: get the ball over to the left side of the 2-pin, drive the 2 into the 10, the ball will automatically take out the 4. If he doesn't make this, Chris, I think Johnson might go wild here.
So an open frame in the second. Leto, Monticelli, 2 titles, the 1988 Showboat Invitational winner, and won his first in the 1987 Japan Cup. Teresa, his bride of 3 months.
The full grip, fingertip grip. Monticelli spreads that index finger for control and kind of keys off of it, snaps that ball at the release.
A high hit, 3-6.
Why a lane like 25 continues to hook every year is simple, Chris. This used to be a lacquer bowling center for the fans at home that learned to bowl in the 50s, maybe even the 60s. There was lacquer on the surface instead of urethane as we have today. The old track or worn area still remains embedded in the pine slightly. The characteristic is there, and these players are not adjusting to it.
Now carefully wiping that gleaming bowling ball, setting the grip.
Full fingertip.
Three in a row. Second game for Jim Johnson, Jr.
The style that has historically provided the champion here at Imperial Lanes in Toledo, the down and in style. Earl Anthony won the title here 3 times. Dick Weber's won here. Normally a down and in player. Johnson, one of the 2 down and in players in the championship round today.
Well, what can we say about that left lane, Nelson?
A little too quick. He was tentative with a shot, didn't let it roll. And what we have is shoot the half, a 2, 4, 5, 7, 8 difficult spare. If he makes it, he will still continue to lead by 29.
You can tell Walter Ray wants.
Nelson, a pair of congenial hosts.
Mike Duquette, Daryl Duquette. Mike on the board of directors of the National Bowling Proprietors Associations that represent almost 3,800 bowling centers in the United States, and they will be holding the second jewel of the Triple Crown 2 weeks from now in Edmond, Oklahoma, the BPAA U.S. Open.
And hoping to do well there as he's doing here, Jim Johnson, Jr. With a high hit. Sometimes.
I'll tell you, this bowling is fun just watching it every week. These guys leave all sorts of stuff. Look at this one. Here we go. He has the 3, 4, 6, 7. Needs to get the ball over here by the 3-pin, drive it over into the 4-7 area, hope for a good break, convert that spare.
So bad break for Johnson. That coming in the 7th frame of our second match. Jim having won the first 182-171 over Mark Baker. And Monticelli is the opponent now, leading by 19. No luck that time on the 5.
Well, a wry smile from Jim Johnson as he apparently is going to rip the 5 out. Watch this pin action, the 1-3. Now watch it go over here and paralyze, what we call paralyze the 5-pin. It's standing up, almost goes over, and it's just stopped.
Okay. Terry, rather tensely enjoying this match. Their husband bowling in against another red-shirted professional, Amleto Monticelli. TrustCorp has announced that they will again sponsor this event 1 year from now. Same place, same city. Good news?
Great tournament, a lot of money, prestige.
Now, Amleto with a 310.
Amleto with the big hook ball just could not wait upon that shot, and boom, hooks it high, crosses over. The baby split, get the ball over next to the 3-pin, let the ball deflect into the 10. Top pros will make this 50% of the time or better. Right now, it's or better for Monticelli to stay in close in the match.
No. What a day. Pressure, sure, playing some part in it, but trying to figure out this championship pair today is difficult. Teresa.
A little bit confused, Teresa. I don't know how much she knows about bowling. I'm sure she can count the money that might be going down the drain if Amleto would happen to lose this match. That big strike ball gets him to the championship round quite often, but his spare ball has been his undoing, but he still has a 6-pin lead, 9th frame.
Mucho better, as Amleto would say. Looking at a score sheet, our statistician today is Palmer Fogren, who happens to be the defending champion of next week's event in Overland Park, Kansas.
The King Louis Open. Johnson, 9th frame.
He wanted that one so badly. 2-4, still standing.
Johnson not adapting to the lane changes that are happening right here in the championship round. For the fans that watch every week as Jim's wife looks on, lanes do change. It happens in league play. It happens out here in the championship round. Lanes have a tendency to get a little bit slicker and then dry out after about an hour or so. Johnson needs to adjust.
As we told you earlier, the loser of that first match, which was Mark Baker, $8,000. Loser of this one, 10. But the winner, with 2 more wins, could win $54,000. That's the winner's share of this huge purse.
The situation very similar to the first match. Baker could have thrown a couple of strikes and put pressure on Monticelli. Johnson now can throw a couple of strikes and take the lead.
It's a high hit and another 3-6.
The situation becomes identical to the first match. In the first match, Baker marked in the 10th frame, forced Johnson to mark in the 10th. The same thing will happen if Johnson marks here. Monticelli will have to get a spare or a strike.
Winner of this game will meet 4-time champion David Ferraro of Kingston, New York, and then the tournament leader from Florissant, Missouri, Pete Weber.
Good count, important on the final ball, would assure him of a chance to win the match if Monticelli would falter. That forces Monticelli to get at least 9 on 2 balls to tie or a spare to win.
180 for Johnson, had a 182 in his victory over Mark Baker.
Any kind of mark wins the match, spare or strike. A 9 count opens a tie. Anything less, Monticelli defeats himself. A lock tie. If he misses the 4-pin, a spare, a winner, he would go against Dave Ferraro in the semifinal.
So there it is in the right lane. A lonely 4-pin and a singularly tough competition, professional bowling. And here he is, shooting first, his opponent, 4-time champion Dave Ferraro.
The action will pick up in this match. More scores, tougher competition.
That's a great greeting to Ferraro from Monticelli.
Ferraro, one of the best clutch bowlers we have on the Professional Bowlers Tour. If you give him a chance, he'll slip his foot right inside that door, kick it open, and take all the money. This week's average, 216.
Like that. 29-year-old that grew up in bowling. His parents owning bowling lanes, and he is a likable young man.
An accuracy player with good wrist action, short backswing, snaps that ball well out of the lane, good leverage, has a long slide. Look at how that arm and hand go directly up towards the target, not to the left, not to the right. That finishes the shot, keeps the ball on line. Doesn't play the big hook, but has a lot of roll.
Well, the man who has a double was second in Miami on one of our earlier telecasts, and here he is going for the PBA National.
Looking for things to come. The left-hand lane's been the tougher of the 2 lanes. Actually, Ferraro decided, by being the higher finisher in the tournament, to finish the match on the left-hand lane. That means he feels confident on that lane. Could spell trouble for Monticelli.
Monticelli, who defeated Weber, Ferraro, and Baker in match play.
The profile of Monticelli, 5-step delivery, all the way to the top of the swing, hand cocked wide open, delivers with that good pivot step, tremendous leverage, and it's coined the phrase starting the lawnmower release, snapping that wrist around, and really playing almost a rainbow shot. He started on the center board, about the 19th board of the 39 boards in a lane, sent it out to the first board, and brought it back. The match is even. Both players perfect.
Love touch down there, but it's the 10-pin that stands.
The action of the head pin, very important with these big power players. See that head pin going to the left sideboard, out of your picture, comes back into play, drives the 4 over, doesn't quite reach the 10, leaves himself, for most players, a relatively simple spare.
Semi-final game.
Ferraro, who grew up in a bowling family and a harness racing family, aspired to be a harness racer such as his father. Hay fever was his downfall in that sport. I think he made the right decision. One of the best right now.
3 for 3 for Dave Ferraro. Earlier, he talked about his new venture.
Well, Mike Albee and I are doing an instructional book based on the 150 to 190 average league bowler, and hopefully it'll be on the bookshelves about December or January.
And he said, Chris, that he involves certain stuff in there, which I think is very important, of adjusting the lanes as the league goes along, and some league strategy. So I wish him the best of that. He's got a good co-author in Albee, Get the perspective of two young pros, both from the right side and the left.
And then after the string of 3, the 2-4-10.
Fast feet, the downfall of professional bowlers. He gets anxious, wants to run up there and throw it too quickly, so lets the ball slide by. Once again, we have seen this split today. You need to drive the 2-pin into the 10 to convert it. If he does not convert, he will be trailing in the match.
Here's a man that was 5th last year, much to his chagrin, losing to Dave Ferraro. Talking about our tournament leader, Pete Weber, who will meet the winner of the Ferraro-Monticelli match for the championship and $54,000.
Ferraro, 7th frame, can take the lead. The championship match is pro forma to other championship matches we've seen here at Toledo Trust. Very simply, the players, if they can get a real hot hand, can shoot some big numbers. But the PBA has put a premium on shot making in this major championship. Accuracy and speed control of utmost importance.
Battle for the right to go into the final game. Monticelli winning the last match, 191 to Jim Johnson's 180. Johnson winning over Mark Baker in the first, 182 to 171. When the shorts get a little tight in the seat.
That's for sure. Needs a strike to stay even in the match. Anything less, he falls in arrears.
Broke up the split, but left the 4-7.
It amazes me how wide Monticelli can throw the ball if he gets out of the thumb hole clean and still get back to the pocket. And yet, see how wide this ball is, only out to about the 10th board and doesn't even hardly drift high enough to leave a split. If Monticelli can loosen up, he has such a tremendous area to the pocket. When he throws the ball well, he could be very tough. You know, Chris, as a professional bowler, you look for 1 or 2 boards at the breaking point, let's say 45, 50 feet down the lane, and if you can throw the ball well and have the ball take any one of those 2 boards in the pocket, you usually can score very well. Monticelli looks like he has 5 or 6, but he's erratic with his speed and with his release. So far he's been fortunate to even stay close in the match. He trails by 2 in 9th frame.
Monticelli's pressure foundation strike.
All the angles of a professional bowler. Monticelli starting in the center. He'll slide left to center, start the ball around the 3rd arrow, drift out towards the 2nd arrow, send it out all the way to almost the last board, snap back into the pocket. Now, match play competition score is only secondary to who wins, and for a chance for Ferraro to really put some pressure on Amuleto.
Ooh, a 10.
When you see Dave Ferraro start running him out, you know it's in a real tight situation. And watch this. Watch the angle that he ends up with. He ends up right around the center of the lane, playing a down and in shot around the 1st arrow. Good high follow through, his best shot of the match. Doesn't get the desired result.
Loser of this semifinal game, $15,000. But the winner can go into a match where the total is $81,500. 54 to the winner, 27.5 to the runner-up.
Dave Ferraro, with a proven track record in the clutch, one of the best, has chosen to finish on the left lane. He is now in the situation where he can take advantage of that. He leads by 2, but no matter what Dave Ferraro does, he cannot shut out Monticelli. Monticelli can determine his own destiny.
Now you see the intensity on the face of this four-time winner on the PBA Tour.
The first strike in the 10th, his wife Gloria looks on, forces Monicelli to get one strike. If Dave Ferraro can strike again, he'll force Monicelli to get two strikes. As the PBA Tour always makes the difference between the player who could perform in the clutch and who struggles when he needs it.
2-8 for Ferraro.
The spare is almost secondary. The best Ferraro can do is 203. If he gets one pin, he'll have at least a 202 game that will still force Monicelli to throw one strike for all the money. And that was his audio question. Can he do it?
Oh, it's 203.
2 years ago, the national championship, Amuleto Monicelli stood on this very lane needing one strike to win the championship. He left a 4-pin. He said if that situation comes up again today, he will not do anything different. He felt that he can make only a shot that good.
A 10-pin. Yes, another single pin, Bo.
Unbelievable. He just went to his knees. He felt he could get a strike. I think the experience of leaving the 4-pin 2 years ago was in his mind. Now watch the action, the 5-pin, the head pin. The ball impacts the 1 and 3, slams the 5-pin over towards the 7. But here comes the head pin back around. He needs to carry it to win. Does not. Ferraro against Weber.
That's Ferraro's greeting to tournament leader Pete Weber, who's made the finals here before. As we told you, he won the 87 Firestone, the 88 United States Open, yet to win the PBA National Championship. He's been devastating all week.
What a terrific break he gets on the first shot. The head pin. Watch the action of the head pins. Go into the sideboard and come in and knock out the 2, 4, and 5. You'll see the 2-8 double wood spare here. There it is. Here comes the head pin in behind. Trips out the 2. A super break for Weber to start off with. The second frame is going to be ultra important. I watched him take his practice balls before the match, and he wasn't even close on this lane. Let's see what happens.
And he left a 4-pin.
Pacing is so important in a match like this. The lanes are so tough that you just cannot go out and attack, throw balls, get all excited. You cannot beat yourself by trying to attack too quickly. Weber, very smart the first 2 frames.
Strike spare for Dick and Renita Weber's 26-year-old son, Pete. The man over his left shoulder, that was Worth Wilson, Executive Vice President of TrustCorp. Coming up high, leaving the 6-10.
David Ferraro is 6th in average so far on the PBA Tour with 217 through 11 weeks. The number 1 man, Pete Weber, 220 through 11 weeks.
Ooh, chops it off the 10.
How often does that happen to the league player? You don't see it happen very often in a pro tour. Watch this. The ball comes right in, breaks just a smidgen, doesn't deflect into the 10. Oh my gosh. Couldn't have been a 16th of an inch between those 2 pins, and it causes Ferraro to fall behind by 12.
You don't like to see it in an important match like this, or any time. And then high again, 6-10 on the left side.
Now what a player should do is David will do this. He's practiced this shot many, many times. He uses a little bit slicker bowling ball for this shot, and he'll just go ahead and try to make that exact same shot because hopefully lightning won't strike twice and chop it twice. Perfect.
All right. And the chairs here, hear them for Pete Weber. His third championship round appearance this year. All right, a double, or rather strike for Weber in the third.
See the style of Pete Weber as being very familiar to all of us. Five-step delivery all the way at the top of the swing, hand open, hand cocked, drives with that pivot foot, tremendous leverage, as good a wrist action, arm swing, and look at how stretched out his whole body extension is. Just cannot roll it any better than that. Fourth frame to take a 22-pin lead.
Can't say enough for TrustCorp embracing the PBA National Championship all these years, and representing them today, the corporate vice president, Ed Turner.
And as you said earlier, Chris, they'll be back for a 10th consecutive year with the national championship in 1990. Ferraro, fourth frame, trails by 22.
And again, a 10-pin.
In addition to the $54,000 that goes to the winner, a 3-year exemption to the Firestone Tournament champion would be enjoyed by both of these players. That means they wouldn't have to win a tournament or even bowl on the tour for 3 years to still bowl in the Firestone.
And David Ferraro, he's been on our telecast 15 times over a span of 10 years, and during which he's won 4 titles, none as important to his career as this one. Gloria, full support. Beautiful strike on the pesky left lane.
Pete Weber, age 26, with all the smarts and experience of any veteran that's ever stepped upon the lanes, knows that now is the time to get Ferraro. Weber has a 23-pin lead. Don't fall asleep here in the 5th. Go with your Sunday punch early. Ferraro will sneak up and get you if you let him.
Now he's strung together 3. We asked him if he thinks or anybody else can win the Triple Crown in one season. Here's his answer.
Well, winning the Triple Crown in a single year could be tough. The players today, out of the players today, I think Baker and myself and Ferraro could have a shot at it. But winning all 3 in 1 year, that would be really tough.
On the left lane, it's a 3-6-10 for Weber.
Lost the ball off his hand just a little bit. It's a very warm bowling environment in here, a low ceiling in this bowling center. And with a low ceiling, you always end up with a lot of heat with a big crowd. Pete gets the 3-6-10 spare.
I think George Haig, the chairman of TrustCorp, hit it right on the head when he said, Toledo likes bowlers, TrustCorp likes bowling.
And I'm sure that they've been good companions for all these years. Now, Ferraro needs to squeeze Weber a little bit. He trails by 30, can cut that lead to 26 frames. Strike up.
Come on!
All right. Gritting his teeth. Cutting the lead to 20 pins now with that double.
What a marvelous shot by this young man in a key situation. Follow through directly towards the target. If anyone at home obviously works on their game, try for that. He's going to run it out. See the perfect strike. All 10 pins in the pit. Now the lead could be just 10 for Weber if Ferraro can strike in the 7th.
Come on, ball!
Oh, he gets it. Well, we're in historic Toledo, where the most famous battle was that one of fallen timbers General Matt Anthony Wayne defeating the first Americans and opening up expansion to the west.
All right, Chris, and this, he expands his strike zone with this particular shot. The head pin, the sideboard, rips it around, carries out the 10. The most important strike so far in the match.
Just a touch high.
The importance of match game play, as you see Weber riveted on the target, keeps his head down, his eyes on the target, knows it's going a little high, leaves the 4. As I was saying, the most important thing in match game play is not to have a letdown and let your opponent feel like you're squeezing him. And right now, Weber needs another strike to let Ferraro know that, hey, he's still there, even though he only has a 9-pin lead.
Using it all.
Now Pete has some trouble. If he makes the spare, he'll continue to lead by 5 pins. As you see the angle that Peter is playing, he goes over the second arrow, sends the ball not quite wide enough out to about the 5th board. Much more difficult than the 3-6-10. He has to concentrate on get that 9 out also.
Well, is he as free swinging as he was earlier in the match?
I don't think so, Chris. The point you picked up, in the early part of the match, he went light, ripped the rack, and then in the key 4th frame, Peter went for the whip. He threw it as strong and as hard as he could, sent it out wide, took a commanding 33-pin lead. Now that Ferraro has bounced back, Weber's a little more tentative, and Ferraro, for the first time, can take the lead, 8th frame.
Come on, boy!
And he does. Nelson, the big leaders in bowling in the past years were honored by the American Bowling Congress this week in Wichita. Our friend Bruce Pluckhahn, Pete Contis, George Pappas, and Harry Lippy, all inducted into the Hall of Fame, of which we're proud to be a member.
Good point. Some of the great players. Pete Contis, a winner of this tournament way back in the early 60s, as Pete Weber is working on just himself. The crowd will tell Pete the story. Don't let the crowd affect your game plan, Peter. He knows how to win, and here's another guy that knows how to win. Just 5 pins separate the 2 players, 9th frame.
Ken Penn, Dave Ferraro bowling in the 9th frame. Much appreciated by this capacity crowd, one of the largest crowds because it's a 60-lane, very stretched out bowling establishment.
A large, large frame. If Ferraro had struck there, he'd have had Weber on the ropes. The match is up for grabs.
As we indicated, Weber 3 times in the finals, finishing 5th. Well, the least worst he can do here is 2nd, and he doesn't want that because it's a chance to be one of only 3 to win the U.S. Open, the Firestone, and this championship. There he was back in his tempo.
Peter is the tournament leader. He made the decision to finish on the left-hand lane in the clutch, and there he is right now. The best shot he has thrown so far in the match, there's no doubt. He knows they're all going down on this shot. And for Pete Weber to win the Triple Crown, he can take it all himself right now with 2 strikes. If he strikes in the 10th and 11th, he will shut out Dave Ferraro. 2 strikes, nothing Ferraro can do.
He's 4 lanes off to the left. Pete Weber, can you imagine in Florissant, Missouri, Bo, what's going on? Juanita and Dick Weber, his parents.
Well, the first man in almost a decade to have a chance to win the Triple Crown, Chris. Pete Weber stands on the approach, 11th frame. And really a lifetime of training and practice for Weber will be measured on this shot.
And the skaters to follow in wide world of sports. Won the big ones. That's why it's the challenge of champions. A 9-pin.
It is not over. Pete Weber will finish 221. Ferraro will need 2 strikes and 6 to become the PBA National Champion.
And as you pointed out, Bo, Dave would be the one that you might send up on the approach if you needed that.
The last time Ferraro was in this situation was in Cleveland, Ohio, against Brian Voss, the defending champion this tournament. Needed 2 strikes, doubled in the 10th, defeated Voss 211 to 204. The same kind of results would bring him his first major title. Needs this strike.
Just perfect.
The only thing that went through Dave Ferraro's mind as he walked back off the approach was an eye-to-eye meet with his wife, Gloria. Everybody here knows the situation. The 6 pins are secondary. He'll get the 6. He must strike to become the national champion.
He has bowled a 221 Weber. Pete Weber will wear the Triple Crown ring. One of only 3 joins Billy Hardwick, Johnny Petraglia, a tough break, leaving the 6th in. David Ferraro. Pete Weber. Pete Weber